Thanks for tuning in to Howe's Things, the podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library, recorded right here in Wellsville, New York. I'm Ally Stevick.
I'm Nic Gunning, and today we're joined by special guest author Dylan Newton. Dylan, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Nic and Ally. I'm so excited to be here. It's always my favorite thing to do this podcast and be in this library, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, today, I don't know if I would agree with you because it is very, very hot in here.
It is so
It's
hot.
aggressively hot in here. The last time Dylan was here, Ally, we were going through our list of favorite rom-coms, which was always a good time. What's your go-to rom-com?
Are we talking books or movies?
Movies.
Okay, movies.
See, I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I do have quite a few rom-com movies that I like.
Okay.
I haven't read as many books. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay.
But I really like You've Got Mail.
Yeah, that was mine.
Mhm.
That was one
Meg
of mine.
Ryan,
Yeah.
you know, it's great. You can't
Always
go
a
wrong.
good one.
Yeah,
Always a
Sleepless
good
in
one.
Seattle, Joe versus the Volcano. I love all the Meg
Oh,
Ryan
Joe
and Tom
versus the
Hanks.
Volcano. Yeah, that's great.
It's
Mhm.
Classic. Yes, well, Dylan's here today because she's got a new book out, all fired up, and she's going to be here in the auditorium on July 13th, so come on down, 6 o'clock. I hear there's giveaways, Dylan. Is that true?
There is. I'm
Okay.
I'm very that person who likes giveaways. I enjoy giving them. I like giving things away. We're going to have some custom hot air balloon cookies
Ooh.
from Sugary Crumbs, a local baker here,
Okay.
and also some other giveaways that are from my publisher and myself. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited.
Who doesn't love swag? Everybody wants to walk away with a gift
Absolutely.
bag. you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's first open up our books, see where our bookmarks are at. Allie, what have you been reading?
Okay. So I just finished a book called Study in Charlotte by Brittany
Oh.
Cavallero.
Yeah. It's a YA, like, Sherlock Holmes spin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And my thing is, I'm like, anytime there's a spin of something, especially if it like takes an old story and is like,
Yeah.
let's give it a female protagonist, I'm like, I'm so here for it.
Mhm.
Let's read it. So I thought it was a lot of fun. There's a whole series, so I have like 3 or 4 more books ahead of me,
Yeah.
which is great.
I love when you start a series like that. That's
I
always
know.
so
Oh,
much
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, because sometimes you start a series and you're like, this is so much commitment. Do I really want to do this?
Mhm.
But like if it's like not a huge series and the first one is really good, then you're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
now I don't have to figure out, like the next things I need to read. I
Right.
can just grab the next one off
So
the
wait,
shelf.
are you still, speaking of series, you've been on a Louise Penny kick. Are you still reading Louise Penny, or are you
Okay,
taking
so
a break?
here's the thing.
Okay.
I've been listening to all the audiobooks of the Louise Penny books,
Oh.
which
Yeah.
are very well done.
Mm-hmm.
However, everyone in the StarCat system agrees with me
Oh, the
because they're
hold.
constantly.
Yeah.
So I've been on hold for the next one for, I want to say, over a month
Yeah.
now. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, maybe I just need to break down and gasp, actually read the physical book.
Yeah.
Mm.
We'll see. We'll see how desperate
You
it
got a
gets.
CD player? You could play it on a CD player.
That's a good point. I do actually have a CD player.
Yeah.
Maybe I will do that.
Maybe. Okay, but Study in Charlotte.
Yes.
2 thumbs up so far.
I thought it was really fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long is that series? It's a couple, isn't it?
I think it's like 4
Okay.
that I'm aware of, maybe a 5th that I'm not aware of.
Ongoing, or is it?
I don't
closed?
know. I'll need to double check.
Okay. All right. Anything else on your reading radar at the moment?
I also just read Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett.
Oh,
This is
okay.
one of the Discworld books.
Yeah.
Which for a long time I've been like, this seems like this huge thing that's really hard to get into, so I'm not going to try. And then at some point I found out there's like mini series within the series.
Oh.
And so
That
this
lessens
is,
the commitment.
it lessens the commitment and makes it more approachable.
Yeah.
So this is like the first book of the Witch sub-series.
Okay.
And I think witches are a great time. And so I was like, let's
Mhm.
go. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I thought that one was pretty fun as
Okay.
well.
Do you like fantasy, Dylan?
I do.
you?
I'm
Okay.
actually I love a lot of genres. I read very widely, and actually my most recent reads were both YA because I'm a huge audiobook fan. Just
Sure.
because when I'm writing and editing, which I'm editing right now,
Okay.
I don't have a big appetite to open a book
Yeah.
at all times
Yeah.
because I'm usually working on my own.
Yep.
So it's a guilty pleasure of mine, and I think it's the most decadent thing to do to have someone read to you.
Mhm.
So audiobooks are a big thing for me, and I actually bought my most recent vehicle only because it was the last one that had a CD player. So I wanted to make sure I was in on that. But
Yeah,
actually, the
yeah.
ones that I'm reading now are off from the Libby,
Oh, sure.
app. But yeah, my 2 most recent reads are also YA, and they weren't fantasy, although I am a big fantasy fan, but they were sci-fi. It was I have to put my glasses on so I can read it. It's called Hardwired. Have you read that from Len Vlahos?
Oh no, I
I
don't
don't think
know
I
that
have either.
It was it's about a boy named Quinn, and his name stands for like quantum intelligence. So he's the first like self-actualized AI.
Oh.
And he's supposed to be a 16-year-old boy, but actually he discovers he's AI,
That sounds fun.
which is really fun. And then the other one I read was What Beauty There Is by Corey Anderson, which was a thriller, a YA thriller. So my two most recent reads, my daughter and I were listening to those on the way up. So they were really fun, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good readers, because that's
that is important.
Yes, good readers.
Yeah.
Both my daughters are good readers. Oh, you mean the books themselves or my daughter?
The audiobook readers.
Oh, the audio.
Yeah,
yes, the narrators were fantastic. Yeah, and I also finished Tessa Bailey's. Like I said, I'm pretty voracious on the audiobook. I do it when I'm, walking, when I'm in the car, mom's taxi service. So I finished Tessa Bailey's Hook, Line, and Sinker, which is a rom-com.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, it's the second in a series, and I'm always hesitant because I didn't read the first, and I'm very type A. I like to read them in order.
Yeah.
But she did a great job because I had not read the first, and I still was able to follow the second, which was great.
That's awesome.
I think audiobooks are so great, and some people are like, "Oh, it doesn't count," but I think it totally counts.
Counts.
It totally counts. And my wife is an editor, and so same thing, just like you're saying. It's like the end of the day, she's like, "No more words. I can't. I cannot see words on page anymore." So yeah, she's a big audiobook listener. And I used to, because I used to have a much longer commute, and I would pound through things like listening to an audiobook. So I've slowed down audiobook-wise now. But I'm currently listening to one. It's Stranger in the Lifeboat by Mitch Albom. You guys know Mitch?
Yes, Tuesdays with Maury.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Tuesdays with Maury. That was the first one that I read. I know it is. It's a real tearjerker for sure. And that's nonfiction. And most of what he's written since has been fiction, and this is one too. And I always find with a Mitch Albom book that I'm never like, oh, I have to have the next one. Like, when's the next Mitch Albom book coming back? But every time I find myself reading one, I'm like, yeah, I really like this. So I'm interested so far. It's about there's a luxury cruise, not a full size like 1,000-passenger kind of cruise ship, but this luxury cruise goes down, and there's just a few people left in a lifeboat, and they get someone in. And they pull him in, and he claims that he's like, I am the savior, and they're like, what's going on?
Oh man!
So that's sort of the plot. They're trying to figure out, is this guy crazy?
Wow.
As they're all trying to survive in a lifeboat. So pretty good so far as far as audiobooks go. I read a Star Trek book. Are you a Star Trek fan?
I do like Star Trek, yes, but mostly like the Next Generation. Version,
that's the go-to. This was a Star Trek Voyager book. So after the Voyager series, the TV series ended, there was like a relaunch that was like, what comes next? And these have been going on like since that show ended, like 20 years ago. And this was like the last book in the relaunch series. And so it was kind of like bittersweet to finish it. And I also didn't like it that much, and that made it worse.
Oh,
that is unfortunate.
It was a satisfying conclusion, but the book itself, like, it focused a little too much on new characters and not enough on the classic characters. And I'm like,
why would you do that?
This is the final book.
Yeah, that seems kind of weird.
That's sort of your job as an author. I know I'm wrapping up my series, and my agent, my editor are like, okay, so it's the third and the one I'm editing right now. And, they're reminding me that, okay, so you do need to bring in, characters from book 1 and 2 and give a nice little tidy bow at the end.
Yeah.
And, it is an expectation as a reader, for sure.
Yeah, you want to like go back to that. You want to see like, oh yes, this is why I love this book. So yeah. So I'm on the fence about this Star Trek Voyager book. I'm currently reading one called Red Rising. Do you know this one, Allie? It is YA. It's by Pierce Brown.
It's a very familiar title.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd recognize the cover. I'm not far enough into it to really tell you what it's about, but it's set on Mars, and it's sort of like the descendants of human colonists, and it seems like it's going to get dark, maybe.
It sounds like it would very much have the potential to. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds like the kind of book that's like, either it's going to have like this like weirdly 50s like nuclear family vibe, or it's going to go like real dark.
Yeah.
I don't know why those are the two options, but they are.
There's a lot of them. I think there's like 5 or 6 of these books so far. So
in the series?
Yes, and I haven't committed to reading all of them, but so far. But I agree, Dylan. Like with the series, it's really hard for me to, even if I don't like it, I'm like, oh, there's only one more. I got to do it,
I like to finish it. Yeah, I specifically waited for, I actually, the audio book I finished before I came up here was the Game of Thrones, and then I was on the second one. Was that Clash of Kings or something like that?
Something
and
like that.
I kind of wanted to wait until he was all done, but I'm not certain that he's going to be all done.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Are you guys watching anything interesting right now? Movies, TV?
I just watched the first Ms. Marvel episode,
which
our listeners from, the past will know that I really like Ms. Marvel, the comic books.
Yeah, it was like your window into the comic book world, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
I know we'll talk more in depth about this probably in a future episode.
We will.
But I'm a little bit concerned about the choices they made about changing her powers.
Yeah, there's some differences.
But overall, I thought it was a good time. I thought they did pretty well.
No, I felt the same way. I liked it too because my son is 8, and he likes that kind of thing. But we don't let him watch the Marvel movies or anything. But Ms. Marvel is sort of like, I feel like it was a good like lens for that. Like it wasn't too violent or anything like that. So we were able to all watch it together, which was kind of nice, and he liked it. He was more of a stickler about Ms. Marvel's powers than I was because they.
Well, but you don't like stretchy powers.
I don't like stretchy powers. I know. Are you a Marvel fan, Dylan? Are you watching these movies, TV shows?
I sometimes get very I get a lot of FOMO if I don't see it, but then when I do see it, I've sometimes missed something along the way, and so then I'm in there and. Whether it's the Marvel or the DC movie, I always feel like, wait a minute, everyone in the movie in the theater is saying, and they're saying, and I'm obviously missing out on something. So that is always disappointing for me when I feel like I'm not getting all the nuances of the movie, but I do enjoy them.
Yeah, I feel like my enthusiasm is waning a little bit as there's just so many things. Like even when it started taking off, it was like you got maybe one a year or like one every other year. And now it's like
every month there's something new.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with. But I am liking Ms. Marvel. Have you watched anything interesting, Dylan?
I have to be honest. I'm very commitment phobic when it comes to television, just because it is a massive time suck. And if I am writing or editing, like it's I don't know. I'd rather be reading or writing.
Well, it kind of sounds like you're in the eye of the hurricane right now, right?
I mean, a little bit. Yeah. I have the book 3 to finish, and then that commitment with with my publishers is done, and the 3 books will be done, and then I'll think about the next one. But but yes, I'm a little under the gun right now, so I haven't, to be honest with you, watched a lot of television lately.
Are like one-off standalone movies, is that better for you in that you're not like, oh, I'm gonna get sucked in and then there will be 3 seasons, or is it still like, I'd be better spending my time reading or writing?
I don't mind the one-off standalone movies, and I do that, and I do enjoy going to the movie theater, and in fact I missed out on Top Gun.
I saw Top Gun.
I'm so sad about that.
It was so fun.
I'm so sad about that, and I would like to also see. It's playing now, or it was just recently playing the
Jurassic World.
Yes, thank you. I'm like the 3rd one.
Yep.
Yes, so I have not seen that one.
I think it's Dominion. Jurassic World
Dominion.
I think
Yes,
that's what it's called. Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, but actually that's on my list here because we had just last night watched Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, which is the second. Jurassic World's Fallen Kingdom. It's the second of the Jurassic World movies, and I saw it somehow. My wife didn't. I don't remember like how that happened, but she'd never seen it, and we were gonna go see the new one, this weekend. So we were like, oh, we gotta watch it. It's not great. I don't know.
Yeah.
That middle one is. I don't know. Have you seen it, Allie?
So this is one of the things I'm gonna say, and you're gonna be like, why did I hire this girl? I've never seen any Jurassic movie ever.
I'm late to the party on that. I read the books when I was younger. But my wife was like, she has these like crystal clear memories of going to see it at the drive-in with her parents. And like, this is like this big childhood memory for her. I didn't watch it until after we were married. And I've seen the original trilogy maybe twice. So I'm not a deep cut Jurassic Park fan. But even so, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is pretty rough. It hardly feels like a Jurassic World movie. So fingers crossed about Dominion. I like that they're bringing the old crew back.
I do too.
I think that's... Any excuse to see Jeff Goldblum, I feel like is usually pretty fun.
For sure.
Are we watching Stranger Things? Have you guys watched Stranger Things yet? Still no.
I have not.
Have you seen any of it?
So I haven't, but my daughter has, and so now she's so far into it that I feel like for me to start over, like we're not going to be able. It would take me forever to catch up to where she is.
Yeah. How about Allie?
So I haven't seen any of it, but what has just happened recently is finally, after I don't know how many years it's been, like what, 5-7 years that's been coming out.
Long time.
Finally, I've been like, I think I want to watch this.
Wow.
So, and I think what did it for me is, this is kind of terrible to say, but when you're scrolling through Facebook, there'll be like those clips that Netflix is like, here, we're going to suck you in and make you watch movies. And they work way better on me than I would like to admit.
Wow, look at you.
And so I was like scrolling through, and I'd seen a couple of clips from the new season, and I was like, this looks kind of fun. I feel like maybe I've been missing out all this time. So
I mean, going back to Top Gun, I'm a sucker for like 80s nostalgia, you know,
Right.
and I think that's what Stranger Things, especially the early seasons, does so well. It just feels like, you know, E.T., but intense. You know what I mean? Like, it's got that vibe, and so it's a lot of fun. I'm still like tentative about season 4. It hasn't sucked me in as fast as the earlier ones, but Jessica, who's on staff here at the library, she's a super fan. Stranger Things is like, she puts it on in the background while she's like doing the dishes or something.
that
So
seems
she's-
very on brand.
Yeah, so she's seen it many a times, and she says, you know, that season 4 is aces. So take her word over mine, I guess. But yeah, that's where I am watching wise. So Dylan, what's it like for you when you finish this, when you finish the editing process and like everything is just done? Is it like a big sigh of relief? Are you like, I have a life again, or what's that experience like?
Oh, for sure. A lot of self-care happens.
So we like to see.
Showering, yeah. No, it does get a little crazy in the first draft stage. So I'm in the edit stage now, which is a different kind of animal altogether. So that's a lot of imposter syndrome. Can I do it? I did it last time, but can I do it this time?
Yeah.
So for me, that's just such a monster that I wrestle with during the editing stage. But yes, I'm looking forward to this being done. You will see me here at the David A. Howe all summer long working on my edits, because I'd like to be the grown-up girl that works from home, but I'm a grown-up girl that prefers to work at the library. I just need that separation. I don't know of spaces.
I get that.
So you'll see me, looking very sad and forlorn on the side with my laptop, doing that. But yes, when I know when I finished book 1 and 2, it was just like a, whew, okay, so now let me catch up on all the movies that I've missed and the books that I've missed and the everything that I've missed. So, I'm looking forward to the day or the days when I have it better scheduled, I guess, and I can do it without feeling like rush and get it done, and have more of like a daily routine, I guess, around it all. I'm not awesome at that right now. I'd like to be awesome at that.
Yeah. Now with All Fired Up, I've always heard, I feel like every author I've ever interviewed has some sort of horror story about book 2. You know what I mean? Like you got the first one and it's like a big accomplishment, and then it's like, oh, I have to do this again. Like, was there, because the first book was pretty well received. I mean, it seemed good reviews, and I mean, I enjoyed it, and it seemed like it was, it did very well. Does that add to the pressure? Like, was sitting down to write book 2, like, like now the eyes are on me?
It was very nerve-wracking. I think I can't really speak for every author, but I know it's a thing with authors when they write, a series of 3, that the sophomore book, the second book is always, you mentioned earlier that the second movie was kind of a stinker, and it tends to be, the sophomore slump tends to be sort of a thing that is intimidating to face down as a writer. I was fortunate that I chose, it's set in Wellsville, and it's set during the balloon rally. So I think that was, for me, that was really so much fun to write. And so I didn't really so much face the sophomore slump. At least I hope I didn't. It's been well received so far. Good. But yeah, no, I had a really good time writing it, because it was, my hero is a very laid back kind of guy, and I am not a laid back kind of gal. So it was really fun to be in his head, Xander's head, it's a dual point of view book. So it was fun to spend some time with somebody who is very casual and laid back. So it was fun.
Now, your books, if I'm remembering from our conversation last year, it's not necessarily that it's like you have to read book 1, book 2, book 3. It's more like a sort of a connected world, and you're highlighting different characters in each book, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So the first book was Kate and Drake's story. Yes. So it's kind of the 3 Matthews brothers. Okay. Very loosely based on my husband and his 2 brothers. Okay. Well, that's fun. So Drake is the horror writer, oldest brother. Book 2 is Xander, who's the youngest brother. And I kind of played along with like the birth order, mythology that goes with birth order. So what are you all? Are you all firstborn, secondborn, oldest?
So I'm in the weird position where I'm the second of 4, but there's a big gap between me and the next one. So I'm not the youngest, but I'm supposedly the youngest birth order wise.
I see.
Which I buy.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
a little strange.
Yeah, 'cause
Nice.
you lived a good portion of your childhood as the youngest.
Right. I was like, yeah, I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And then
Yeah,
it was
I get
like
that.
2 more brothers.
Yep.
Now you're not.
That
So
makes a big difference.
Yeah, you've been dethroned. Yeah.
exactly.
That makes
Yeah.
a big difference. Well, I think it was fun to play with that because I see it, with people that I know that have
Sure.
3 siblings.
Yeah.
There are 3 of them. I'm the oldest, so both my heroines are very type A, very very like that. So
Yeah.
it was fun to play with that for sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm looking forward to talking about it. Let's dive into some book news before we get there. I want to look at the New York Times bestseller list and see what's climbing the charts today. So these are the bestsellers hardcover fiction as of June 26th, 2022. Number 10, 79 weeks on the list, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Nora Seed finds a library beyond the edge of the universe that contains books with multiple possibilities of the lives one could have lived. This one has been on here so long, I'm just tired of looking at it.
I feel like I see this one everywhere.
know.
Like on all the lists and like, like big things that people are reading
I
and like
know.
all my Goodreads friends. And I'm like,
Sometimes, I don't think this is a positive thing about my character,
Oh, boy.
but sometimes things with like that much hype, I'm like, I don't want to mess with that. It's like almost off-putting to me that it's so like, oh, you have to read this. Oh, you have to watch this. It makes me kind of be like, do I? I don't know.
I was so ready to judge you for what you were going to say. And then you said it and I was like, shoot, that's exactly the
Also
same.
you?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's part of why I didn't watch Stranger Things before
Yeah.
now.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, number 9, 6 weeks on the list, 22 Seconds by James Patterson and Maxine Pietro. The 22nd book in the Women's Murder Club series. Lindsay Boxer returns as word gets around about a shipment of drugs and weapons. I have read a couple of these and I don't like them. Have you read James Patterson?
I've read James Patterson, but
Yeah.
I haven't read this series
Women's
that
Murder
he's
Club. Yeah.
that he's doing. I have not read that yet. So
Yeah. I read a few of the early ones. I still like the Alex Cross books.
Yes.
Those still,
Uh-huh.
I like
I agree.
those. Number 8. Oh, new this week.
Ooh.
Ding, ding, ding. Night Crawling by Layla Motley. A young, struggling black woman is identified as a key witness in a scandal within the Oakland Police Department.
Sounds kind of
New
cool.
this week. Yep. Speaking of James Patterson, here he's again. 14 weeks on the list. Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson.
Oh.
Yeah, I am curious about
I
that
know.
one. I did read.
I
I
have
will
to
tell you
admit.
that I do kind of want to pick that
I
up.
know.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they've already got, there's a soundtrack and there's a movie in the works too.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
Yeah.
Fun.
Wow.
Pretty serious. Has anybody been to Dollywood?
I have.
So much fun.
It
don't you
is fun.
think?
It really is. It was such a blast. I was not expecting it at all. Pigeon Forge is such an interesting place.
I know, it
and
really is. Yeah, that and Gatlinburg are some of my favorite places.
Oh yeah,
Really fun.
don't go to Gatlinburg in July and stay in the mountains though. There are a million ways to die.
I believe that.
found.
Oh.
Yeah,
I believe that.
a lot of bears
Yeah.
all the time.
Okay.
Oh.
So, Allie, you might want to change your plans
Okay.
for July.
I'm going to take down these notes.
Yeah, so Run, Rose, Run, a singer and songwriter goes to Nashville seeking stardom, but is followed by her dark past.
Ooh.
Mm.
So right there.
Intrigue.
Yep, you know. Also new this week, The Omega Factor by Steve Barry. The UNESCO investigator Nick Lee winds up on the trail of a panel of the Ghent altarpiece, which was stolen in 1934.
Hmm.
Okay. It
Sure.
feels a little like, Dan Brown-esque. Like
Yeah,
the
it
Da
was
Vinci
National
Code,
Treasure
you know,
sort of
yeah,
situation,
National Treasure.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
mhm.
another one. Yep. Number 5, also a lot of newbies this week. I love it. Counterfeit by Kirsten Chen. As Ava Wong's perfect life unravels, her old college roommate from China wants to enlist her help with a counterfeit scheme.
Oh.
Hmm.
Have you ever been involved in a counterfeit scheme, Al?
I feel like that's not something I should tell you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Number 4, 3 weeks on the list, Night Work by Nora Roberts. Harry Booth, a master thief, breaks things off with Miranda when a dangerous contact might harm her. Are you a Nora Roberts fan? You don't have to say.
So I've read Nora Roberts,
Yeah.
but not. I'll be honest with you, not recently.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time.
She's so prolific.
Oh,
I mean, just
absolutely.
So many. That and and she also writes as J.D. Robb, and
Yes.
those are just like boom, boom,
I
boom.
know. I don't know how she does it.
I don't
I'm
either.
very much in awe. I'm
I-
lucky to be 2 book a year
Yeah.
writer, and I'm very much in awe of people who can 3, 4, 5 a year.
Yeah, I
It's
don't.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't understand it. I can't
Yeah.
like the time it must
Mhm.
take. I don't know. I guess someone like Nora Roberts probably just has it down as a science now, but still, it's hard to picture. Number 3, 2 weeks on the list, Meant to Be by Emily Giffen. Joe, the disappointing scion of a family considered American royalty. It's a lot of pressure. And Kate, a budding model, seek to escape her surroundings. They find each other. Okay. Number
Sounds
2, new this week, Tom Clancy 0 Hour. Tom Clancy fans in the room?
I've read him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tom Clancy if you could get credit for wanting to like an author, I would get a lot of credit for Tom Clancy, because I've tried on multiple occasions, and I can say that I do like Hunt for Red October, but I don't know.
I like the movie of that.
Yeah, it's a good
That's
movie.
a good movie.
I read the book, and I think that might be my only Tom Clancy.
Yeah. It's just such a commitment. There's just so much. You really have to be into the minutia of like the Navy, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I feel like that's the thing is like anytime I'm like, oh, maybe I'll read a Tom Clancy book, then I look at it and I'm like,
it's very dense.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I know, but then I always like hear things that are happening and like Jack Ryan's whole trajectory, and I'm like, I should read that, and then I pick
So
one
then
up,
you get
and
hit
I'm
with the
like,
FOMO.
I should not. Yeah.
The FOMO is lying to you.
Yeah. Did I say Jack Reacher? Because I meant Jack Ryan.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let the record show that I meant Jack Ryan. Anyway, 0 Hour, a Tom Clancy book by Don Bentley. Jack Ryan Jr. appears to be the only person who can stop a second Korean War. That's also a lot of pressure.
That is.
Stopping a second Korean War.
Yeah.
Number 1, 2 weeks on the list, Sparring Partners by John Grisham. 3 novellas, Homecoming, Strawberry Moon, and Sparring Partners. This is his first. He's done short stories. Before, he had a collection called Ford County, but this is his first collection of novellas. I don't really gravitate towards short stories or novellas. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I have a hard time with that too. I guess I enjoy the character development in a novel. I like to really feel like I know the people and just dig in. So I don't typically gravitate towards that unless they're horror. I mean, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so I read all his short story collections. But other than that, I really don't tend to do that now.
Yeah, I guess when I look back at I'm thinking like short story collections that I've read, and it usually is like genre fiction, sci-fi or horror or something like that. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm a John Grisham fan, so I assume one of these days I'll get around to this. But have you read Grisham at all, Allie?
I have not.
Maybe you can too.
Maybe.
One of these days.
Maybe.
You can start with some novellas.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for the hardcover fiction bestseller list, and I'm pretty sure we have all of these in the collection, so you can just come and check them out. As soon as you're finished reading Dylan's books, you can read any one of these. All right, let's get to it. So, Dylan, could you start by just giving us a brief synopsis of what the book's about, how it connects to the last book, and just sort of a window in for people who haven't read maybe the first book?
Sure, absolutely. Well, they're written to be standalones, as we kind of talked about earlier, so you don't necessarily have to read them in order, so there is no FOMO. You're okay to start with book 2, I promise. So it's another small-town romance set here in Wellsville. It's an opposites attract as well. It's a second chance romance. They have met previously. The hero's name is Xander Matthews. He's the youngest of the Matthews brothers. And he's a very laid-back, carefree guy who runs a kind of like a painting with a twist, but with ceramics. So if you take ceramics and throw it in a party situation, he runs a business that's sort of like that.
Okay.
So he runs a ceramics wheel throwing kind of business, and he's a very live in the moment kind of guy because of his Marine past. And he meets up with Imani, who is a publicist for Drake Matthews, and that's how all the characters tie into the first book. So right, so she's Drake's publicist, and she's a very type A, list-driven sort of person, and is really nearing burnout. I would actually say she's probably at burnout in her current position, and is coming down to Wellsville to take care of her grandmother, who's having a double knee surgery. So she's been asked to come down and help her with that recovery. And she uses this as this is a good break time to figure out what I'm doing with my career, to figure out where I'm going, and to maybe get some sleep. She's suffering from some insomnia and panic attacks and anxiety, and she really just needs this reset time. The last thing she's looking to do is to get involved with Xander again after their one-time hookup. But as you know, small towns find a way to bring people together.
Yes, that does happen.
So that's a little bit of the overview, and it does happen in summer, and actually right around Balloon Rally, which is next week.
We're just coming right up on it.
Yeah, coming right up on it.
I know. That's going to be exciting. It's been so because we haven't been able to have it for the last couple of years. So, and that's such a big weekend for the library anyway, with the Balloon Rally kickoff, and just brings so many people to town, and it's been disappointing to not have it. So I think there's a lot of excitement.
I'm so excited.
So, so definitely good timing with the book here. I'm curious on the back end of things. I remember last time with How Sweet It Is, we were talking about how for the cover you wanted kind of almost like a spooky haunted house sort of vibe, because that's a big part of that book.
Right.
And you got overruled.
I did.
Oh boy.
And that happens. You don't get a choice.
But I wondered how was the process this time? Were there Were there things you wanted that you couldn't quite get, or did it all settle out exactly how you hoped? Or I'm just so curious about that.
So yeah, the first book was definitely that experience. That wasn't the title I had originally on the manuscript.
Okay.
How Sweet It Is was not the original title.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was not the original. The thought that I had in my head, and what you type up, basically kind of a one-pager that describes your characters, describes pivotal scenes, and kind of your idea of what you think you'd want on the cover. And none of that happened, but they are smart. They definitely chose correctly with How Sweet It Is and what they put on the cover.
That is a great cover.
Yeah,
it really
was
is.
so fun,
Yeah.
and it just came out in mass market, and which was a different cover. So it's the same story, different cover.
I didn't know that until we were talking before we started recording. What is it? It's the same cover, you said?
So different cover.
Oh, okay.
So it's the mass market is a smaller version than the trade paperback version, and it's kind of geared towards the like a small town romance market.
Oh, okay.
So it's more of a photographic cover. So you see a picture with a woman who's kind of not running. She's not running through a field of cosmos. She's walking through a field of cosmos. You just see the back of her going towards a large Victorian in the backdrop. So it's kind of I think it's really fun. And again, I had zero input on that either.
Yeah.
But it's doing really well, and it's fun to see because it's in Walmart, which I've never been in Walmart. So that's definitely been a bucket list thing for me. You can go into any Walmart and see me, and Meijers, which is I guess a grocery store chain, and Myers.
Yeah. I'm from Michigan.
Oh, you're from Michigan, so you know.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's big business there in Michigan, Ohio area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been tagged in a lot of these posts, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. This a grocery store? Where am I?
It's not unlike a super Walmart because it's like kind of half grocery store, half home store.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm there.
Yeah.
and in a bunch of other places as well. But for the cover for this, what's really fun is it is the title I came up with, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That is rare to happen.
I love a good balloon pun, and you got it.
All
right
fired
there.
up.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
And it is exactly what I wanted on the cover.
Nice.
Not so much the colors and things like that, but I was very meticulous in my one pager this time, and I have several Balloon Rally prints. From the area over the years, and I actually included pictures of those prints so they could see actual Balloon Rally shots of the rally at Island Park and things like that. So they had a lot to work with, and I thought it would be so much fun to see hot air balloons on the cover, and that happened. So I was pretty excited about that.
Well, it has it's a great cover. It has a very summery feel. I think the colors, they do kind of pop and they catch your eye. So that's really fun. When we had Susan Wiggs here visit earlier, part of her presentation, she did like a slideshow thing, and she was talking about cover art, and she showed 50 variations of her most recent. And I just think that's such an interesting peek into like the behind the scenes, because I think before we started talking, to other authors, I guess I just kind of assumed that like the author just got to choose those things, that it was like your book, your title, your cover, like you had kind of like at least veto power or something. So it's interesting to know that sort of, and it makes sense because, when it's being marketed towards the widest possible audience, you want people who that's their skill to do. But I think it's interesting to learn, what you have control over and what you don't. Is that ever hard? I mean, are there ever things that you as far as the editing process that you really are like latching onto, and you're in somebody saying, I don't think so, that part's got to go?
So it's definitely hard in the editing process because when you're writing a rom-com, if you're writing comedy, you're going to be writing a joke, writing something that's funny, and you have to make sure that the funny is not going to be offensive in any way. So that sometimes can get a little bit dicey. So you do have to kind of, be very aware of that. But I haven't really ever encountered anything where I've been a severe, a significant pushback where I felt really strongly about something that someone wanted. No, I'm lying. That is a lie. Here's the lie. In this book, actually, in All Fired Up. So here's fun. So fun grammar things for y'all. Or you all. Sorry, I've been living in Florida for a really long time. Sometimes that rubs off on me. In the book, they stop at a wing place, and I couldn't include the name Duff's because it's not. I'm not able to do that because there were things that happened in Duff's that don't actually exist in Duff's, so it was like a fictional Duff's. But anyway, in my head, I had pictured Duff's wings because that's kind of an iconic buffalo wing eatery. So they're in a buffalo wing place in that scene, and as I'm writing it, I said buffalo wings, and I capitalized the B in buffalo. And it went through copy edits, which is So content edits are the first round of edits, and that's
Yeah.
the big chunky things that you're cutting whole chapters potentially, and you're doing a lot of revisions. But then the copy edits are more like line edits and fixing little things. And the copy editor said, no, it needs to be a low B for Buffalo Wing. And I was like,
That seems so weird.
that can't happen. You don't understand.
Right.
You know, where I'm from, if you don't capitalize the B in Buffalo, you know, someone's going to throw down. Like, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So I did push back on that one, and I actually looked up an article because, you know, I am that girl. If I'm going to push back, I'm going to have proof.
Yeah.
So I pushed back on that one, and I pulled up an article from, I believe it was the Buffalo News, that said that finally that they had I don't know if it was Merriam-Webster. It was an alternate version of Merriam-Webster, but it was accepted by the AP now that if you write Buffalo for Buffalo Wings, that it can be and should be capitalized. Yay. So I got to keep Buffalo Wings with a capital B.
Oh, you won.
So I did win on that one. So that was really the only thing that I've actually had I've pushed back on and had a lot of passion behind the pushback.
Yeah. That's funny. It's funny the things like that like stick in your head. You're like, no, this is unjust. It can't be. So now I gotta ask though, are you Duffs over Anchor Bar when it comes to your
Oh,
wings?
I like them both. But I really felt like I just wanted to put Duffs in there.
Yeah.
That was the most recent one I had been to, so it was kind of sticking in my head. And there's the reason it isn't called anything in the book is because there's a gift shop that exists in my fictional Duffs that doesn't exist in the real Duffs, so it's really not any named bar or named restaurant. It's just a generic one. But how about you? Are you an Anchor Bar?
I mean, I've been a vegetarian for years, but
okay.
But before that, I was all Anchor Bar, so that's where my loyalty lies. Allie,
I don't have one particular place I'm partial to.
do you like chicken wings?
I do.
Like, you like Buffalo Wings, capital B?
Capital
Buffalo
B.
Wings? Okay.
Yeah, Buffalo Wings
but
are
you
good.
don't have a favorite.
I don't have a favorite.
Okay, you're gonna have to make a commitment.
I haven't been like that immersed in Buffalo Wings to like have a favorite.
All right.
So,
all right.
you know.
Nice.
All right, maybe one of these days. Let's talk a little bit about the balloon rally because it's a major backdrop here, and I mean it's the major backdrop of our lives at the moment. Can you just tell us a little bit about some of the balloon rally like memories that stand out for you? Why it kind of sticks in your mind so much? Like, was this an important part of life for you? Like, was it a thing you were looking forward to?
I did. I obviously growing up here, that was our big week. You know, the whole balloon rally event was something that we all look forward to. But the core memory that I have, I was very young at the time, and we were driving home, and it was a night launch, so it probably was either a Friday night or Saturday night launch. And a chase car had gotten lost, and a balloon was kind of drifting down. And my stepfather at the time decided, let's go help that balloon out. So I don't know if you know this, but it's a tradition that if you help a balloon land, you can get a bottle of champagne, and there's like a whole celebration, so that when they trespass on someone's property, that they have a little gift for them.
That's nice.
So obviously I was a minor, and they couldn't find the property owner at the time. It was just some random field, and it was a cow field, and it is a cow field in the book. And I won't give anything away about that scene, but that is one of my favorite scenes in the book, the balloon ride. But anyway, I got to go up because they couldn't do that. They gave me a tether ride.
Okay.
And I was about 9, and it felt honestly like being in a very large Easter basket. Just a wicker Easter basket. You could see through the bottom at the ground receding, and there's no sensation of lifting at all. It's the most curious thing. I don't know, have either of you been in a hot air balloon?
No, I haven't been in one, no.
Because you're traveling at the same speed of the wind, you don't feel any breeze. It's just a very serene sort of lifting experience. But the ground recedes at a very rapid rate. And so I only got to go on a tether ride, but it was amazing. It was definitely a very core memory. So I leaned in on that quite a bit when I was writing the balloon rally scene. It's a very pivotal scene for Imani and Xander in the book.
Yeah, I mean, I love the balloon rally here. The library's always packed, and the book sale, is always huge, and it's just fun to see that many people gathered. My hometown's Battle Creek, Michigan, and also had a big balloon rally. It was very different than this. It was like everybody would go down to the airport, but there was just a million balloons. It was like everywhere you were, like you could see them. And I have like 2 really specific memories from childhood. Once my stepsister and I were outside the house, and we were like looking up for the balloons, and we saw a bunch, and they were up high. and they started throwing candy down, but they were really high.
Oh my goodness.
Like, we're out there, and these like peppermint candies are just like shattering like next to us. We're like, ah!
Oh,
like,
no.
candy
Oh my
feathers.
goodness.
So you got to think that through, you know.
Yikes.
So that was terrifying. And then another time, it was my stepsister and I. We were on a jet ski on the lake, and the Sugar Bear balloon, you know, Sugar Bear, like the cereal, was just they couldn't get it to fire, and it was just like slowly going, and it landed in the lake, and it was like nobody out there. It was just she and I on a jet ski, so like nothing we can do. It wasn't a boat, and it was just like slowly sinking. And they were like
no!
pulling, trying to get it to start, and we're like, what do we do? And they finally, I don't know what it was, but they finally like got it to light, and it took off, and it just like slowly rose out of the lake, but it was crazy. And it was, of course, it was a giant Sugar Bear balloon.
Oh my
it wasn't
goodness.
just like a round balloon. It was like a giant bear. So
I feel like this is a missed opportunity. Nick, why did I not know this story
I'm sorry.
earlier? That
Feel
could have
free.
maybe made it into the book at some point.
The time that I almost watched the sinking of the Sugar Bear. Yeah.
Historic.
Yeah. I feel like with something like the balloon rally, that's such a good hook though for a book, because it's so, I mean, it feels very like sort of quintessential small town, you know, because it's just a way to get everybody gathered there. Now, when you're using that in the book, like, are there specific like instances that you're pulling from there?
For the balloon rally,
yeah.
yes, definitely. We go we try to go every year that we're here, and it's you know, there's so many memories about being down there and watching them lift off, and the sound and the noise and the excitement, and it's early morning usually, because if you're here Saturday or Sunday morning, to, you know, when it's cooler and it's, you know, there's that roar of the burners and things like that. So it's fun. I'm really hoping, if there's any balloonists out there, that I can actually take a ride maybe this year. So I will be here if there's any balloonists interested in putting me up in one. I'd like to do that.
I wish I knew a balloonist, but I don't. Let's talk a little bit about the research then. So obviously you had that one childhood memory. Are there other things that you were going like really research heavy on for this book?
So a lot of this book was written during the pandemic, during the first writing stage. So everything was closed. So any research I did had to be just emailing people or online or watching a video or whatever, things like that. However, I was up here last summer editing book 2, and things had just started to open up. So I actually called over to the Wellsville Creative Arts Center right across the street here and said, listen, I know zero about pottery, other than what I've seen online and read. And I, as a writer, just feel like if my hero, this is his occupation, that I'm not doing my due diligence if I haven't actually thrown clay on a wheel. Right. So I said, is that a thing? She said, of course it is. And they have an opportunity I think it's every Saturday, that you can go in and you pay a really low price, and you get about 3 pounds of clay, and they teach you how to throw on a wheel. Which I will tell you looks a lot easier than it actually is.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
And I had no idea. Color me surprised how difficult it actually is to make anything that resembles anything the first time that you do it. But I had so much fun over there, and they were such a big part of my research. Christina was the one who sat with me, showed me everything, let me, you know, make a mess. Unfortunately, just a terrible mess. My clay ended up flying off the wheel and splattered everywhere, and the clay bits dry on you later, so you don't even know you're covered in clay water until like later, and you're like, wow, I'm speckled in clay water.
That feels like a rite of passage, though, doesn't it?
So.
I feel like you have to have that experience. I feel like all of my knowledge of this would come from the movie Ghost, so I can't really add to it. Have you done this kind of? Have you done?
I haven't. Like, I've had a number of friends. I know. I've had a number of friends who have like done it and been like, "This is so fun," and I'm always like, "That's cool." Yeah. Well, I feel like it's the kind of thing that I'm like, I just don't know how to start. You know what I mean? Like, I know a little enough about it, and if you don't have access to a place to do it, then it's kind of like, well, okay.
Yeah, you can just go right across the street, and newbies welcome, and they'll take you through it, and they're so kind and welcoming. All the potters that were there doing their thing, is literally like watching a J.K. Rowling. Like, it looked like magic, just watching them coax this clay into a form, and then I'm doing it, and it's just not coalescing into anything at all.
That's
So
funny.
it was like watching magic. It was
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, one of our board members is a regular over there.
Oh,
She always
nice.
has pottery and stuff on display out there. Yeah, I'd like to. I took an art class in college, but we never did that kind of thing. It was more like painting and stuff.
Yeah.
So how did the experience of actually like being there and doing that, how did that influence the book or the character? Like, were there certain things that you took away from that you're like, oh, I got to change this? Or
Right.
I
integrate?
did.
Yeah.
I did. So part of the inciting incident is some historic tiles on her grandmother's fireplace, like a vintage tile gets broken.
Oh,
So of
okay.
course
Yeah.
she's got to go into his studio and
She
see
has
if
to.
those can get
It's the only way.
repaired.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
So I knew nothing about, and I came in and I said, I have a lot of questions as I'm working on this clay.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes on the side. And I said, okay, so if I came in with some vintage tiles, could you replace them? And she said, of course. Yeah, we do that all the time. And so she took me through the entire process.
Oh, wow.
And there is a process and it
Ooh.
has to cure. And there's a whole, I don't, cure is not the right word, but it has to dry and has to dry evenly. And there's a whole wedging process and things that you have to do and add into the clay based on like what would have, so that it can match the vintage
Yeah.
tiles because they were made differently and with different ingredients, and different ingredients produce different colors and different glazes. And it was so interesting. So yes, they were amazing. And I didn't know how much I didn't know. One of the things I thought was that clay would have a scent. And I'm very like olfactory focused when
Yeah,
I
guess
write.
I would assume that too.
Right.
And I like to bring those kind of things in there.
Yeah.
And it didn't smell like anything, which
Huh.
I was very surprised. I
Huh.
thought it was going to smell like very earthy or something
Yeah.
like that. And I had that in the original draft. And I was like, okay, let's cut this.
Yeah.
So
Go
a
back
lot
and
got
delete.
added and some things got cut. Yes.
Okay. All right. Huh, that's interesting. Now, on more of a heavier topic, I know like mental health is a topic in here, and could you talk a little bit about why you wanted to include that, and maybe any process that you had to maybe research that, or really dig into that topic? Because it's heavy, and I feel like over the last couple of years, I mean, that's really kind of come to the forefront.
Yeah.
I think people are talking about it more than they ever have, and also maybe still not enough. you know?
Yeah. But I feel like we're making progress in
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yeah.
I feel like it is too, and I really was on purpose to try to normalize that conversation in the book. So it's definitely something I set out to do on purpose.
Okay.
It is part of Imani's story and her journey. She is going through a lot of life issues, and it's triggering some panic attacks and anxiety and things like that. And I did draw upon my own experiences. A lot of what Imani goes through, especially like ocular migraines, where you like the visual migraines where
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have pain, but weird things happen to your eyesight and things like that. Actually, I went through during a career juxtaposition in my life when I
Yeah.
was working for a Fortune 500 company for a lot of years, and it was a great job, but I was working a ton of hours. I was not really doing obviously what I wanted to do in life. I was working in banking,
Yeah.
and my as an English lit major, and I would see my daughter for about an hour a day, and it was just not
Yeah.
what I wanted to do
Yeah.
with my life. And it was, although it was a good job, I just felt very trapped by the job. So it's really important to take care of your mental health, and I tend to be from the stock of grin and bear it.
Yeah.
Let's not, we don't need to look really closely at
Yeah.
this. Just smile and it'll get better.
Well,
And
and nobody really likes to ask for help. I feel like,
Right.
or at least the majority of people maybe don't.
But it's important, and it's part of Imani's journey is it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to not do something about it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to be very on purpose with showing that part of her journey, and like I said, normalizing that conversation for both, because they're both going through some things. And I don't know about you two, but I know during the pandemic, my mental health took a nosedive, and I really had to be very on purpose with
Yeah.
self-care
Yeah.
and just listening to my body and mental clues
Yeah.
as to where I was at that time.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm right there with you, and I don't think I've fully bounced back, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still a process, I think, for all of us. But, I think one of the things is, like, the way you treat mental health versus the way you treat just, like, health in general. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, you have a cold or you break your leg or something, like, you have to fix that. Of course, you have to go and do something about that. But when it comes to mental health, it's like you don't have that obvious tangible,
Mm-hmm.
like, here's the thing that's wrong, let's fix it. It's so nebulous, and I think, you know, you, or at least I personally tend to kind of get in my own head, and just like you're saying, you know, just power through it, you know, like it'll be fine. And I think that has a breaking point at some point.
It does,
you know
and I think I hope we're moving in the direction where there's a commercial out right now where there are a bunch of guys in a weight room, and there's this guy underneath a push-up bar, and he's trapped under the weight. Like, there's too much weight on the end of the bar, and he's gotten stuck under the push-up bar. And another guy comes over and says, "Can I give you some help? Can I give you a lift?" He's like, "No, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this by myself. I'm going to get through it." And it's all about mental health. And at the end of the commercial, you find out it's, you know, to set up a telehealth appointment. It's all about mental health, and it's so true. I think a lot of times, of course, you would never think twice about helping somebody lift a weight off their chest that they can't deal with right now.
Yeah.
And you would never think twice about that. But, you know, I hope we're moving toward a place where people feel just as comfortable with helping people with some other burdens that they're carrying right now. And I think it's really important to be on purpose with that. And it was a very purposeful thing I did in the book. I will tell you that, to make that part a big part of her journey, because I felt that a lot during the pandemic time. So
Yeah.
No, it makes it very timely, because I think, I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast just in other light ways. It's just, you know, the impact of what was essentially, you know, sustained trauma, you know, that we all experience. And of course, there are degrees in that. You know, people had it a lot worse than I did, you know, but like that doesn't change the fact that, like, we all experienced something collectively that was unhealthy for us, and, you know, we'll be seeing the after effects of that, I think, for a long time as a society and as individuals. So I think it's so important to just acknowledge that and say, like, sometimes you just need help. Sometimes you just need to, like, you know, reach out. So.
And I love that there's more options available, like the telehealth appointments that you can schedule, that it's not as, and commercials like the one that, you know, that's airing right now, you know, that I referred to earlier. I think it's good to remove that stigma, and it's good to normalize that conversation. And I'm all about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's great.
And my hope is that, since, like you said, Nick, this is a trauma that we kind of all have gone through together, that will help with some of the destigmatizing of it. Because it's like everyone, to some degree or other, experienced some effects from this. And so my hope that one of the good things that could come out of this is that overall we'll have a better understanding of what's going on and how to help other people with this, rather than being all like, we don't know what to do. So... yeah, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And I think, you know, like, just my own experience, like, I look back at those years, and it's like my job wasn't affected, you know, like we had food, we didn't have childcare issues, you know, and so I feel silly saying that, like, it was hard for me, but, like, it was, you know,
and
that's just,
and it's okay to say that.
Exactly.
It's you know, it's okay to
right.
You should have that validation that it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I think perfect time to have that in a book, and hopefully, you know, as people are reading and enjoying, that'll kind of connect in a different way too, which would be great. So both books that are out right now, we have and are readily available. And Dylan's going to be here talking primarily about All Fired Up on July 13th, right? That's going to be the main focus. Can you give us a little bit of a preview on what's to come in the next book?
Sure.
Okay.
Book 3 is the last Matthews brother. It's Riker. He's the middle brother. So if any of you are middle siblings, you will be unsurprised that his is the last story, because middle siblings always feel like the neglected, cast out one. So so we do explore that a little bit. But Riker's book is the third book in the series. There is not a title yet. So the title I had set for it, the heroine is a sauté chef, and so I had some cooking references in the title, and it was felt that was kind of overdone at this time, which I kind of feel like if you look, there's a lot of cooking references and titles now. So there's a couple of others that we're kind of ping-ponging back and forth and things like that. So I can't really say what the title is going to be at this point, but it is Riker's story, and I am in edits right now, content edits, which is always exciting. And by exciting, I mean terrifying and, soul crushing, but also exciting because that's the first step in the process. Novels are made in revisions. I tell that to everyone.
Yeah.
When we do a writer's workshop, novels are always made in revisions.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it's an important process. So yes, I will be giving some little clues about that at the talk, and maybe I'll have a title for you by then.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. No, that's exciting.
Stay tuned.
Are there any talks about, like, are there audiobooks for these, or is that anything that's in the work?
There is. There
Okay.
is an audiobook for both How Sweet
Okay.
It Is and All Fired Up, and there will also be for book 3. And what's been really fun about that is kind of the behind the scenes is that as an author, you do get some say in the narrator.
Oh,
So
that's
you get to
Ooh.
do a blind audition to listen to some people, and so the voices I hear in my head, I have to see who matches the
Right,
voice
yeah.
in my head for Imani or Xander.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
bet.
So
Yeah.
I was really excited about that. And the audiobook, I highly recommend it. Emma Love does Imani, and she's just so spot on with what she
Okay,
and how
okay.
she brings the characters to life, especially Gigi, which is like a secondary character, like the grandmother.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a crazy grandmother character.
Uh-huh.
And also Max Lloyd Jones is the male narrator.
Okay.
And he's amazing. And he also did Drake in book 1.
Okay,
And
okay.
I felt like he nailed Xander in book 2. So he's up again
that's
as the
cool.
male narrator. So it's a dual point of view book. So you
Yeah.
get to hear, which I think is fun. I like audiobooks that have 2 narrators
Yeah.
when there's
Yeah.
dual
I do
points
too.
of
Yeah,
view.
it is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it feel more like theater,
Yes.
It makes
Yeah.
it really feel like it's almost like an audio drama at that point.
Right.
Now, I know you're a planner, as we've established. Are you thinking beyond book 3? Like, what do you got, like, twinkling around, like, the back of your mind there? Are you thinking different genres? Are you thinking, sticking with this? Like, where are your thoughts right now?
If we're allowed to know.
Yeah.
Oh, you're totally allowed to know. Yes, I mean, I'd like to. I kind of stumbled into rom-coms. My original, when I got my agent, we were originally submitting my YAs. So YAs were what I was looking to do first. And obviously, prior to that, I wrote paranormal romances. So this is kind of genre number 3 that I'm entertaining. But I've had a lot of fun doing rom-coms. So I kind of don't want to leave this world. But I think I probably will bridge over from Wellsville into something else. So I'm playing around with one of the secondary characters. And I think that might be my bridge character to maybe another series.
Okay.
Another book of 3, which, I might want to take a month and think about it for a minute because when I sold my original series, it was just based on book 1 and then I was, doing a lot of writing up synopsises and things like that. So I kind of want to plan this one out, being the planner that I am. Plan this one out a little bit more maybe, but I'd like to do another one, and I'm also working on a horror YA for my agent as well. So another shift of genre,
That's
but
interesting.
so it's that's something that I'm working on as well.
Well, and I feel like I see a lot of people reading horror YA right now.
It's very
So
popular.
It seems timely.
Yes. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dylan, always great to talk to you. Thanks for coming back and chatting with us.
thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we have the books here, or you can get them at your local independent bookstore, right?
Yes.
And Dylan's going to be here on July 13th at 6 o'clock down in the auditorium. So we hope you'll join us for that. We're in the midst of the summer reading program, so we've got lots of things going on for all ages. So, Ally, what's the thing you're most excited about in the summer reading
The
program?
thing I'm most excited about in the summer reading
you like
program.
when I toss you questions that I don't prep you on?
I absolutely do. I don't know. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. I'm really excited about some of the crafts that we're doing. Like later this month, we've got you make like a jellyfish with like a little light in it.
Yep.
And I love jellyfish and octopuses. I love oceans, so this is the perfect summer
That's
theme
true.
for
We've
me.
covered your love of the octopi.
So I am especially excited about that one.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, we're also starting our summer feeding program tomorrow on July 5th. That's going to start where kids can just come to the library at lunch and get a free lunch. We're partnering with the school on that, so come on for the food, stay for the programs, have a good time here at the library this summer. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of How's Things. We'll see you next time.